Erik Erikson became many things throughout his life, but in the end he became a German psychologist. Erikson was born on June 15, 1902, and died in 1994. For most of his childhood, he was raised by his single mother until she remarried a physician. Erikson's mother never told him this man was his stepfather till way later in his life, and he believed this was his real father. Finding this out left him confused about himself, which would lead to his future identity theories. Throughout his education, he never received a degree. He attended art school when his stepfather told him to become a doctor, but he later dropped out and was once again confused about who he was supposed to be. He later became a professor at Harvard, an artist in Italy, and a teacher in Austria. He received an offer to teach at a progressive school where he met Anna Freud, the wife of Sigmund Freud, who later influenced Erikson's developmental theory. By working with Anna, Erikson was able to coin the term identity crisis, which seems to be what he's been dealing with most of his life. Erikson's psychosocial stages were built upon Freud's psychosexual stages. Each stage had a virtue to be attained. Erikson used a versus system to show two different sides of the spectrum, although people rarely feel one side too intensely. Stage 1 is trust versus mistrust, where the infant gains hope. They either trust their caregivers to give all basic needs, or caregivers neglect their needs and the child develops trust issues with the world. The second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt, where they find will. Children start to gain self-reliance for themselves, example toilet training. With no encouragement to learn, children will start to doubt themselves and self-reliance. Stage 3 is initiative versus guilt, where they find purpose. They start to realize their own initiative, which is actions and common sense. If there is no success or encouragement for independent tasks, children will start to develop guilt for desires and needs. The fourth stage is industry versus inferiority, which results in competence. Children are developing their self-confidence at this age. Not the right praise/encouragement could result in an inferior complexity. Stage 5 is identity versus role confusion, where they find fidelity. Teens start to care about appearance to others as well as what others think of them. No sense of identity here could lead well into adulthood. Stage 6 is intimacy versus isolation, where they find love. Teens want to develop caring and intimate relationships. No success equals feelings of isolation. Stage 7 is generativity versus stagnation, where they find care. This is the longest period of the life where people usually are working, contributing to society, raising a family, or being generous to others, if not feelings of stagnation, which is not moving forward at all. Stage 8 is integrity versus despair, where they find wisdom. People tend to look back on their life, and if they've lived fully, they feel integrity. If they have unfulfilled dreams and wishes, they may feel despair. An example of trust versus mistrust is when a baby is crying and someone tends to them, and they can gain trust for that person. If not, they gain mistrust. An example of autonomy versus shame and doubt is that children like to gain independence by making choices. If there are no choices to be made, there is a lack of confidence. Children are social and curious. An example of initiative versus guilt is when children ask many questions and people shut them down, which makes them feel guilty. An example of industry versus inferiority is when children want to feel pride for their accomplishments. If they do not, they feel inferior to others. In identity versus role confusion, teens try to find themselves by likes and dislikes, and if not, they are confused about their role. In intimacy versus isolation, young adults search for an intimate partner, resulting in love. Avoiding relationships and intimacy could lead to isolation or worse, depression. Generativity versus stagnation. Adults try to make their mark on the world by creating or nurturing. If not, this makes some feel unproductive. The last stage is ego integrity versus despair. People feel full about their lives as they reminisce, or they feel despair if they haven't done what they wanted. Contributions to teaching. Erikson looked at ego and character structures for children and found that each were different. Children play is also a way of expression and free and creative thinking. And there is also now an explanation for each stage and struggle in life. A few limitations are that these stages are very broad and some children may have not been in the stage at the same age. And he also generalized most children's development while recognizing that each were different.